What's going on, guys? I'm Tyler, and I'm here to let you know that Doctor Sleep is no perfect movie. And it takes place 30 years after the events of The Shining, where Danny Torrance, now played by Ewan McGregor, is still conflicted and traumatized after the events of the Overlook. He has alcoholism, just like his father. He's trying to suppress his shining so that he can't repeat his past. Until he meets a girl named Abra, played by Kyliegh Curran, who is even more powerful in her abilities and is being hunted down by a cult led by Rebecca Ferguson. So he reluctantly decides to protect this girl and make sure that she doesn't follow in his exact footsteps. And I was excited to see this movie. I've never been emotionally attached to The Shining like a lot of film nerds are, so I wasn't afraid of comparing the Kubrick movie to this one. I just wanted to see a really good scary movie. And I got a great one because Mike Flanagan, as a writer, director, and editor, knows how to make not just imagery, but themes and motivations of the characters equally scary. And he does that by keeping a lot of information off screen. Usually, when he sets up a scary scene in this movie, it's done with the actor's reaction to something that we're not seeing. All we have to do is register their body language and their facial expressions to see just how much fear and surprise they're going through. So that when it does quickly cut to the scary thing that we're supposed to fear, the effect really pays off, even without music or sound effects. Yes, there are jump scares and little jolts of noise, but they're only placed in moments where if you were to completely remove them, it wouldn't have the exact same effect. And it goes without saying, it helps that Flanagan is good at directing not just adults, but also kids to convey fear and tension. And if you've noticed his filmography, you may see that he tends to mix adults and kids as central characters, which I really enjoy because it shows that there are things in life that we're all scared of and things that we all have to face up to. And those themes are conveyed beautifully, especially for the performances. Ewan McGregor is just as good as he's always been. It's nice to see him do something a lot darker than he's known for. He's not afraid to make himself look completely unsympathetic and completely amoral, especially one moment where he is with this woman and child that he's staying with, and it honestly made me cringe. But at the same time, you can tell that he does want to get better. It just involves a lot of hard work that he's afraid of putting into. But it isn't until he meets this girl that he realizes that she's the only sense of closure that he'll ever have. And Kyliegh Curran as this girl was so fantastic that I kind of stopped viewing her as a kid. I just viewed her as an equal actress among the rest of the cast, and she gets all the credit for it because she does a lot of things that I've seen regular adult actors struggle with doing, mainly through conveying scenes without dialogue, just through her expressions. And there are moments like that actually show off a dark side to this character where you could easily view her as a villain, because there are moments when this cult is going after her that you can tell that when she fights back, she does kind of enjoy being bigger than them. And you can also tell that these villains are a little bit motivated just by jealousy, just by greed of the fact that there's this child who can easily knock them out. But my favorite performance for sure was Rebecca Ferguson as Rose the Hat. I love how over the top she was without going too far. She never hit a Tim Curry or Nicolas Cage level of so bad that it's good over the top. You could tell that she's just a sadistic character who loves to feed off of other people. And the backstory, at least the implied backstory that she and her cult members have, was really fascinating and really in depth because there are scenes that aren't supposed to be scary involving them that really just show them living their lives, having a community amongst each other. And if they weren't kind of sort of psychic, murderous, cannibal vampires, they might actually be decent people who just want to live their lives. And without giving anything away, their motivations do stem from a similar problem that Danny has, which is addiction. Addiction and recovery is a big theme in this movie, which is not a huge surprise. A lot of Stephen King movies involve alcoholism and rehabilitation, just like the experiences that he went through his own life. Why would someone become an addict? How could it possibly benefit them emotionally? How long can someone go without acknowledging that they need help? And how long can they stay in that safe area where they are sober and upstanding? These are questions that are raised in this movie, and while there aren't any explicit answers for sure. That is kind of intentional because every person is different. There are addicts who can't really better themselves because they don't want to, or they're just too scared to even put that much effort into it. As for problems, this main henchman in the cult, who is played by Zahn McClarnon from Fargo and Westworld, I'm a big fan of his as an actor, and I was really excited to see what he would do in this movie. And while he definitely did have some creepy and occasionally funny moments, intentionally funny, they didn't really give him that much to work with, especially compared to Rebecca Ferguson, because the two of them kind of in this movie go hand in hand, and I didn't really feel that sometimes. The other issue is that even though for 2.5 hours I was never bored, I was always invested. As far as the scares went, there was one scare in particular where, for what felt like almost an hour, it went from my heart was absolutely pounding to just getting chills. And it's a good sign to have chills for sure, but when my heart is racing, it just gets me more excited to see what I'm looking at on screen. And I felt like during the first and third act, the scares were a lot better because they were much more built up and the implied details were a lot more often. In the second act, they're very explicit in what happens to these characters. Very violent, not over the top, not too graphic or anything like that, but the violent moments did take me out a little bit because up until then, the movie didn't really need it. Outside of that, I had a great time with Doctor Sleep, and it might be my favorite horror movie so far of 2019. I still gotta see The Lighthouse, and when I do, I'll let you know how it stands on the list. But either way, Doctor Sleep is a movie that completely stands on its own in regards to performances, direction, writing, cinematography, musical score, all of those great things. Yes, there are some shining references in there, and they are well done. But as Chris Stuckman pointed out in his review, most of them only happen in the third act, and for a good chunk of this movie, it's almost never referenced at all. I'm going to give Doctor Sleep a 4.5 out of 5. Guys, thanks as always for watching. Be sure to let me know in the comments below what you thought of Doctor Sleep. And be sure to like, subscribe, check out my other reviews at NoPerfectMovie.com. And once again, thank you all very much for watching. Take care.